The Saskatchewan rental market is extremely tight right now. Cameron Chiquette with the Saskatchewan Landlords Association joins us this week and shares some advice for landlords, tenants, and what can be done to help this shortage of properties. Hope you enjoy.
This is the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, the show that highlights Saskatchewan real estate. Looking to buy your first house, your next investment property? Subscribe to never miss an episode. Here's your host, Ron Caroni.
Hello and welcome back to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, your home for all things Saskatchewan, all things real estate. If this is the type of content that you need in your life, we are weekly episodes that come out every single Monday. Make sure to subscribe so you're not missing those valuable episodes. This week, we are talking about the very tight rental market, and here to expand upon it is Cameron Chiquette, CEO of the Saskatchewan Landlords Association. Cam, always appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure, Ron. Happy to be here as always.
Cam is a past guest of the podcast, but for anyone who hasn't met you yet, Cam, just give us a brief overview of your role at the Saskatchewan Landlords Association. And I'm going to forget the acronym, but the other organization that you're involved in that we're going to touch on in this interview.
Well, I'm the CEO of the Saskatchewan Landlord Association, and then as well, I sit on the board of the Canadian Federation of Apartment Associations, based out of Ottawa, Ontario. So happy to bring both perspectives, a little bit of a national perspective, but really focused here in Saskatchewan. Our work, here in the province where we represent over 50,000 rental housing units in the province. And advocate for rental housing providers and the good that they do in housing the people of Saskatchewan. So happy to be here.
It is July 3rd. This is going to come out a week from now, but in this moment in time, Cam, give us a snapshot of where we are in the rental market in Saskatchewan. And if you can, give us some highlights of vacancy. And are there any areas of the province where there's no vacancy? Maybe we're banging the gong here saying there's rental shortage, but are there communities out there where rental stock is aplenty?
Well, overall, I would say that we are in quite a significant shortage of rental units across the province. Now, there may be pockets where vacancy is, that 5 to 7%. Because CMHC only publishes their rental market report once a year, we don't have a great read on vacancy. But from what I'm hearing from our members in Saskatchewan, in the big cities, especially PA, Saskatoon, and Regina, is that there is very few places to rent right now. Vacancies at an all-time low over the past decade, at least, where we are seeing wait lists that haven't gone down since January, February, when I was first talking about waiting lists in the winter in this province, which never happened. And those wait lists continue. Speaking to some larger members who have, a couple thousand units in the province, they're booking into September, October. Even, speaking to some tenants, to book a viewing is about 4 to 6 weeks, just based on availability. So, it's the market is as tight as I've ever seen it in my 4 years in this industry. But I've talked to my colleagues who have been around for much longer than that, and then the real story is that we can't keep up with rental demand on the supply side right now.
Anecdotally, like I just listed my condo for rent. Within the first day, I had 30 messages, and that seems to be on the low side. As other people that I've talked to who are listing properties for sale, they're talking about hundreds of messages, people asking if they can pay a little bit more to confirm that they're in. So definitely a shortage of units, at least here anecdotally in Saskatoon. So I'd like to touch on this. I know we usually focus on the people who are buying homes and the real estate aspect side of this, but your heart really goes out to these people who are just looking for a place to lay their head that's safe, that's a good property for them to be in. What can we say for a renter or someone who's looking for a property right now? And do you have any advice on how they can find a property and things that they should be doing to ensure that they're in a stable position moving forward?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Ron. It's painful as a sole proprietor who has a couple of units to have to say no to so many people. And I know our members want nothing more than to provide thousands more units, but unfortunately, we just can't build them fast enough or renovate them fast enough in this case. We're in the people business, and we want to make sure we can help as many people as possible. But, a few pieces of advice for tenants looking for rentals, whether or not you're already a renter or you're just getting into the market, maybe you're a new Canadian, be very clear about what you want and what the rental housing provider is advertising. So when the first line on a Facebook ad is please read the ad, take that advice because, getting halfway through a process and then realizing that your rental housing provider doesn't allow pets is only wasting your time and the professionals. So read those ads really carefully, understand what the expectations are around rent, pets, utilities, security deposits, all of those things so that you can determine if you're a good fit. And for Pete's sake, don't message somebody on Facebook asking if the unit's available, because when you're scouring 30 to 200 messages, you're just throwing some off the top because they didn't read the ad. Secondly, be sure that you have your documents and your references locked and loaded. You need to have, pay stubs or employment letters, because with rental rates rising, rental housing providers really want to make sure that you can afford the rent. So having those pay stubs or employment letters are really key to helping the professional vet to see if you can actually afford that unit. And another piece of advice is you're going to have to get creative. Talk to your friends or your acquaintances about possibly, doing a roommate situation where you can split a 2-bedroom, because although you might want to have that second bedroom for your company, there is a lack of units, and those roommate situations might become more popular. And then finally, don't be afraid to look anywhere and everywhere for a potential unit. You're going to look at Facebook, RentFast, or rentals.ca, all of those big names, Point Two Homes. I'm not partial to any one of the internet listing sites, but they're all a little bit different and they can sometimes cater to a different market. And then on that note, don't be afraid to find a rental housing provider, and then go to their main website where they'll have a master list of units. It can be very difficult if you're just using some of those internet listing sites to see all of the availability of a Main Street or Devereux apartment communities, for example. Again, not partial to any one of those, but they're larger companies. They have dozens of properties in a city. And if you head to their main website, you'll see all that availability centralized. But be creative, be persistent, and then hopefully we'll get some more units up on the market here as we look to the latter half of 2023 to make it easier for all of us.
So many great points in there, Cam. And I think if I can kind of step back and go back into the landlord's point of view, what you're really wanting is someone who's going to pay the rent on time and take care of the place. And so if you come with a portfolio or a resume to say, here's my job letter, here's my pay stub, here's my credentials, I'm going to take care of your property, that's exactly what a landlord wants. Ultimately, they're looking for someone who is professional, responsible. And if you can really illustrate that by having your organization, you're going to have a lot better chance of getting those units that you're going after. So that's like an incredibly awesome piece of advice there. And from the landlord side, Cam, is it time to take a look at the market? How is a landlord looking at this and saying, well, what should I be doing as I'm taking tenants in? Should I be increasing rents? How do you balance this all out as a landlord?
Yeah, there are a lot of factors at play. We consistently hear, from your content, Ron, and various professionals around Bank of Canada interest rates. Well, every time those basis points goes up, the cost to borrow increases for rental housing providers, which really, makes the math harder to do. And so we're actively encouraging every rental housing provider to really understand where the market's at, but have a really good feel about where your expenses are at. That's debt servicing, utilities, all of it, right? We know that everything from shingles to windows has increased in price over the past few years. So we want to be ensuring that our deferred maintenance, savings pot is there for when we need to, do some major repairs. So, we are, actively seeing rental housing providers increase their rents on turnover and on renewal, less so on renewal because they want to keep those good tenants in place. But on turnover, we are seeing, rental increases that are, anywhere from 5 to 15% on the high end, which, is finally allowing our industry to catch up to inflation, so that we can make sure we can reinvest in those properties. And for our larger members, it's really about making sure that they can invest that capital into future developments, which again will regulate rental increases in the future as we continue to build supply. Because, as we see in Saskatchewan, we've done a really great job of having enough supply, which has kept rental rates pretty steady for the past decade. And as we see that move forward, hopefully that is the case, because what we don't want to see is persistently high rental rates, because that squeezes everyone on the affordability side. And we want to make sure Saskatchewan is still relatively affordable compared to the national average.
So much goes into a rental rate, and I think there can be this common misconception, whether you're watching social media videos or TikToks, about how evil and mean these landlords are, that they're increasing their rates. But what a great point that you're making, that the landlord's costs are moving up at the same time as all of these things are happening. Like you say, Bank of Canada rates have gone up. I've talked to some insurance people that say condo insurance has never been as high as it has been now. It's incredibly expensive for condo corporations to get insurance. And that also passes on to people in their homes, whether it be weather-related claims are going up. Areas of Saskatoon, they're incredibly expensive to get some home insurance on. All of this stuff is held by the person who is paying the mortgage, paying the bills, and then passing that off to the tenants who are helping debt service that. And this is a bit of a business. There has to be money at the end to cover all the expenses and to stay in the game for that unit to continue to be on the market. And just another point on that side, we're at a 10-year low for housing inventory, just for residential units as well. We're at a 10-year low for building starts. And so I think there's like a big culmination of all of these things happening at once. And it ties directly into kind of our last talking point here. It's that what can be done to address this shortfall, and what levels of government, private business need to be activated to help alleviate this problem, because it is starting to become a problem here.
Yeah, it really is. I've never had as many conversations about supply shortage in rentals as I have in 2023. And it's largely due to this demand that we just can't quite satisfy. What we need to do is quite simple, in my opinion. We need to build more rental units. We need to have more apartments, more townhouses. But we also need to make sure that we're incentivizing single family mom and pop rental housing providers to maybe renovate that non-conforming suite and get it rented, or maybe look at, if they have a big lot and they're going to build new, maybe putting a garage suite or a laneway suite, because those are now allowed in Saskatoon and Regina. Everything should be on the table in terms of incentivizing development in Saskatchewan to make sure that we can meet the demand, because we talk about labor shortages and finding good people. We need places for people to live. If they want to live in Humboldt and work at the new BHP mine, they need a place to live, right? Own or rent. So we need to make sure that development's in place. A couple initiatives coming down the pipe in the big municipalities. Hopefully we'll get approval from the Housing Accelerator Fund which could pump tens of millions of dollars into both Saskatoon and Regina to look at initiatives to speed up approvals, to build more affordable housing. But we also need to make sure that there's certainty in the environment, that when developers are coming to city councils across the province, that there's certainty in the approval process, in the zoning process, so that the delays aren't significant. Because with every delay, those costs increase, specifically because of where interest rates are at, and the cost to carry cash on development. So it is really important that that certainty be there so that we can continue to build. And we need the provincial government to make sure that they're unloading the cash they have through the National Housing Strategy to build more affordable units, to incentivize that development. And also, taking advantage of the federal programs around greener homes and energy efficiency, so that we can renovate existing rental stock. Because back to my previous point, if rental housing providers aren't making enough money, specifically if they're smaller in size, they eventually sell that unit on the market, which reduces the rental stock if I buy it and I choose to live in it instead of using it as a rental property. And that secondary market, that the non-purpose built rental high-rise apartments, are a great asset to our province in terms of adding diversity to the rental market, where you can rent a single family home in PA or Regina or Saskatoon to 3 students going to the U of R or the U of S, right? Those are great options available. And as we see immigration increase, the family sizes of new Canadians are increasing. So we need to build the right mix as well, Ron, in terms of 3 and 4 and 5 bedroom rental properties, so that we can support intergenerational living, which is so common in other cultures that are now making Saskatchewan home. So it's simple. Let's get shovels in the ground and 2x4s on the cement, because we just need more units.
Yep, absolutely. And a great point that it's also not the builder's fault in a lot of these cases. Anytime you have a project that gets delayed, a builder carries a lot of cost if they're building that home. The longer it takes to move things through, the more it costs them, and the more they have to eventually pass that off to the end consumer. So, I really appreciate all the good work that you guys do, Cam, and helping to educate lots of people. And even this conversation here, there's so many valuable pieces all along the chain, from tenant to landlord to government to builder. Let's pump this out there. And I think it's something that, Toronto and Vancouver have, chronic building problems. I think if we can get ahead of some of these things, as from a top-down situation, it could do a lot to help alleviate the problems that we're having here, and ultimately lead to more economic success, as we need more people to fill these high value jobs that we have here in the province. Last word to you, Cam. You've been on the podcast a couple times, so it maybe will seem redundant to ask you the advice that you'd give to a younger version of yourself. So I'll throw this one at you. Any book or movie recommendations for anyone watching or listening?
Oh my goodness. I was just sitting around a campfire the other night talking about how I've been in a movie theater in over 10 years. So, book recommendations. I am reading, this sounds very, young professional cliche, but The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People has been really good. But a great book recommendation I got from my boss was The 4 Disciplines of Execution, I believe. I've seen Barack Obama talking about how you got to get stuff done very consistently as a young professional. So that book has really helped me. But not a moviegoer, Ron. Sorry, can't comment. I heard Barbie's really splashing the advertising out, so maybe hit that up, but I won't be.
I just finished The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, so highly recommend that series. Just absolutely top notch if you're a Star Wars fan. But thank you very much for the book recommendations, because I always do enjoy a good young professionals book as well. Let's end it here, Cam. But if anyone wants more information on the Saskatchewan Landlords Association, just give us a quick plug for your organization and how you guys help landlords succeed, and with that great mix of helping tenants as well.
Yeah, Saskatchewan Landlord Association.ca. Find us on the social media channels. We're here to help support folks with one unit, maybe a basement suite, And we also help Western Canada's largest landlords. So find me on LinkedIn. I'm always talking about housing and those types of topics. So happy to be here to support the province. Ultimately, we want a rental housing industry that's professional, that's engaged, and that's providing the best housing to the people of Saskatchewan. So my pleasure to be here, Ron. Always a good time to chat rentals in our beautiful province.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. If you enjoyed it, if you found some value here, do us a favor, help us grow the channel by hitting the like and subscribe button. And don't hesitate to share this with some friends who are needing this valuable information. If you're looking for a little bit more help on the mortgage side, I'm a licensed mortgage broker in the province of Saskatchewan. I'd be more than happy to help walk you through your next purchase, renewal, or refinance. Until next week, I'm Ron Caroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. For now.